To import a LandXML geometry file, we will utilize classic coordinate geometry, and we can select a number of ways to open up coordinate geometry, and I'm going to go into a new GPK file. Typically when I do import a LandXML file, I will have redefine turned on, and we simply select File, Import, LandXML, and then we select the XML file. And on the output, I typically like to go to the window. It just makes it import quite a bit faster, and I'm going to import all three. And so we'll select this, and that then imports the LandXML file, XML file, and then we come in to look at our chain that we imported as well as our profile. You see those now exist, and we can describe either of those, and they'll show up appropriately. Then the same philosophy goes through to export. So we say File, Export, and again, directly out of Coordinate Geometry or COGO, export, and then we would give it a name, and then the file that is going to be associated with it, and that we want to create it, and then we select we want to do one particular chain or all chains, and we highlight the profile, and then we select export, and that will then generate that LandXML file, and you'll see down there in the messages at the bottom left that that has been created. And so that's how we import and export a LandXML file in GeoPack Select Series 3. Now that we see how we can import and export a LandXML file to the GPK COGO file, let's take a look at actually bringing that geometry now from that GPK file over to Select Series 3 into our Civil Platform geometry base. And so to get started, we want to make sure that we have the GPK file with the information available to us, and in our example was 001, and we also want to have a GPK file that we can write to, and I'm going to call this 005, so that if we need to make changes later to our geometry, we don't actually overwrite the master information in 001, but we can update, for example, like a temporary GPK file if we wish in 005. And so I'm going to go ahead and make that and close COGO, and then I'm going to select Import Geometry. And I'm going to go back to 001, which we populated earlier, and I'm going to expand my alignment, and as you go down here you'll be able to see the proposed baseline along with the proposed profile that is in there. And so we're going to select those and tell it to go ahead and create those civil rules, and then we select to import. Now we're going to be prompted for the job number that we want to write to, because we're using a feature that writes back to the GPK file. Well, it's never a good practice to select the same GPK file you're importing from, and so this 005 is a blank file that we'll use as our working GPK file. So I'm going to select that and choose OK, and then what that's going to do then is to import our horizontal and vertical geometry. And if we take a look at it by selecting it and allow the context sensitive toolbar to come up, which is the first icon, you're going to see that it's now associated with this 005 GPK file. And so that allows us then to make changes. And so if I come in here, for example, let's say I change this radius from 3000 to 3500, as I update that alignment, that will update the alignment in GPK 005. And so if I go down to look at that particular chain and describe it, you're going to see that that first radius is now going to be set at 3500 instead of 3000, and you'll see the change there and how that took place. And so that's how this works in terms of importing our geometry to the Select Series 3 platform. And just to show you, if we select our geometry, we have the ability to open a profile model, and I wanted to show how it also brings forth our profile. And so here's our profile that was in there, and you can see that the rules are associated with that as well, and that profile has been set active. And if we take a look at there, you're going to see that the name PRBL, which comes across from that GPK file as well. So that profile is essentially a child of that horizontal geometry. And so that's how we import and export to LandXML, and that's how we import our geometry from the GPK to our working environment. And then the last thing we want to take a look at is how do we export this information. So again, just to kind of show you a different example here, I'm going to make a new file, a GPK file, just to show the export process. So let's say we make 006. We'll say yes to that, and that will obviously be empty at this point. We have then the ability to export to native under our general geometry tab, and essentially all we have to do is to select our baseline, and then we'll reset, and then we select the GPK file that we want to export to, and then we go down to that GPK file. Obviously that chain and profile will exist in there as expected. Now one last thing just to show here, we also have the ability on our context toolbar to select the horizontal geometry report, and so if we select that, we have a lot of different style sheets formatted for us. You can also come up to the formatting options and change the decimal place readout or the station format, etc. And so you can make those changes, and then once that's done, you have the ability then to save that at as many different types of formats as you can see here. And so that's just one particular format. We have many different formats that you can take a look at. As you can see there, that all of that information is available just by selecting the alignment and then on the context toolbar selecting the report option.